8:40 on your Friday morning, and been looking forward to this visit for a little bit as we get ready to see something a little bit different coming in here. And last night was a public presentation at Laramie High School, and this event is actually going to be coming your way later this summer, I think late August. But it's a program that's geared towards freshman students seeking to educate the next generation of drivers before they hit the roadways. And I'll be honest, with our guest Rick McPherson, I've got one right there myself right now. I got a sophomore learning how to drive, just had her 16th birthday, let's just put it that way. So, but Rick McPherson's in studio with me. He started this, longtime law enforcement presence in the state of South Dakota. That's where they're based, Community Organized Resources for Education, or C.O.R.E. And this Caught in the Moment program that's going to be coming to Laramie High School this summer. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you today?
Pretty good.
Well, let's start with how last night went in the presentation at Laramie High School. How do you think things went over last night?
I think it was well received. It was a very good presentation, and I think the people there that were there are really looking forward to the program.
Well, we're going to try and educate some more folks, perhaps folks that had something that was already on the schedule last night, a little bit with this visit this morning. So you're a longtime law enforcement veteran out of South Dakota. So what got you into C.O.R.E. and give me a little bit of background about you, Rick.
A little bit of background. I've got about 32 plus years of law enforcement. Some in Ohio, some in South Dakota. When I come to South Dakota, I worked for the Pennington County Sheriff's Office there and retired from there. But in my first years there, I started in Wall, South Dakota. And there was just a lot of underage drinking going on. And it was the whole thought was that if you're old enough to ride and rope, you're old enough to drink. And that's not the case anymore. Times change. When you start driving a vehicle, there's a lot more responsibility out there on the road. And after a couple of years of that, I got pretty depressed to see the amount of drinking that was going on with the teenagers. So I was relating that to one of our good friends who's a defense attorney, federal defense attorney, and she just flat said that I need to go do something proactive instead of reactive. So much in law enforcement, we're reactive, not proactive. And even though we're trying to do that, but you can be more so. I wanted to be more so outside the law enforcement.
Okay.
So I started the program in Wall with about 60 students, I think, and now we're in about 4 states. We've served since the inception in 2006 over 12,000 freshman students.
Oh wow! So, great to hear. Great to hear you're spreading the word, because. Describe this freshman impact program. It's called Caught in the Moment. That's going to be coming to Laramie High School. You did a presentation and there's a little Q&A, but it sounds like over the course of a day you bring in a lot of students, is the goal, to try and educate them through different steps of the process in a lot of different ways.
Right, and like just the overall, it's C.O.R.E., okay? Community Organized Resources for Educating Youth. And what we do is we deal with risk-taking behaviors. Maybe it's just not totally driving, but it could be teen suicide, it could be sexting, texting, human trafficking, anything to do with teen risk-taking behaviors that they may face, that they may have to make choices on as they come into their high school years. And the freshman is very vulnerable at that point in time, and so that's where we really focus our whole program, is around the freshman student and around the community. What makes it nice is that the program is very, very able to tweak it to each community's needs, or each high school needs. So different communities we go to may have a different need. They may see a bigger use in that type of drug. They may see a bigger use in social media. So there you go. I mean, it just depends on. So what we do is we have different learning stations throughout the morning. Those students will rotate through, and then after those learning stations are completed, we have a peer-to-peer speaker, whether it's a victim or whether maybe already somebody that's convicted, and they come in and they'll speak a little bit to the students. Then we use upper class role model students, not only from just the school that's hosting it, but from the other schools that may be coming. We'll take 1 or 2 of those students So little Johnny over here that goes to a different school can relate to that student that's in his school that's playing that program or playing in that program.
Okay.
After that skit scene, then it evolves into a crash scene outside, which takes on a lot of community networking, a lot of community communication is really a big factor in it. And then after that, we have a legal sentencing hearing done by actual judges, done by actual state's attorneys or prosecutors and defense attorneys. They all volunteer their time, and it's huge. It takes about 6 to 8 months to bring this program together.
So last night, I'm assuming kind of step one, and then you'll kind of work together as this comes in. And it sounds like maybe late August is where we're.
The target date is August 26th. That has not been totally confirmed yet. But
okay.
That is the target date.
All right. And obviously, Rick, who is from South Dakota, you've done presentations, and I want to get to that in just a moment, in other parts of Wyoming, but the Wyoming Highway Patrol really getting involved in this and starting to team up with C.O.R.E. and bring this program here. So how have you seen, you mentioned the program's grown in your time from the 60 students. What's the reaction of kids when they go through this?
Actually, we do an evaluation done by the student. When the student comes into one of the learning centers, one of the learning center areas, then after that program is completely done in the evening before they're home to go home, we have them evaluate the whole program as a whole, and then evaluate each presentation done to them.
Okay.
And then we take that and we enter it into our database, and then that spits out how each presenter presented to them, and it gives us the overall picture of the program itself, what kind of effect it had on them. And right now we're running about anywhere from 89% to 96% effectiveness rate rated by the student itself.
That's great.
Yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah,
I'm very proud of that.
Well, and because young people sometimes can be so difficult to reach. You just never know the mood they're in, if they really want to fully participate. Are they looking at this from the standpoint of, oh, why am I here? What do I got to do this for? Type of an attitude. I'm sure you've probably seen that a lot.
Oh, yes. But the thing of it is too is that we have what we call group leaders, and we handpick those group leaders from the community. So if we have a student that's not really interacting well, and by the way, our program is very highly interactive because it shows 6% of the students learn and retain more if you do interactivity. So if we have a student that's not interacting, that group leader will pull them out a little bit. That's what they're there for, is to help guide those students and get them interacting. So it definitely has a huge impact, not only on those that participate, but even to those that want to stand aside and don't want to become involved. They actually do become involved.
Talking with Rick McPherson, Community Organized Resources for Educating Our C.O.R.E. and the Freshman Impact Caught in the Moment program coming to Laramie High School this summer. So you mentioned the stations. Give us an example. What type of things do you have these kids do in these stations, the 7 stations you mentioned?
They'll vary depending on the presenter, how they want. But we just require that they have the message and that it's interactive. You know, PowerPoints to a certain point are okay. They can use that as a guide, but we definitely want interaction. If there's not interaction, then they have a syllabus they have to go through the board, because we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We recognize, so we're governed by a board, so they have to fill out that syllabus, and it has to go through the board to be approved. So in that syllabus, they've got to be able to articulate what they're doing as far as interactivity, and that can vary. We've had them used for different team involvement. You know, teamwork. We've had one in South Dakota, a fire department doing a fire brigade, a hand bucket fire brigade. And kids loved it, but boy, they sure learned a lot out of it because they had a narrator there talking about teamwork and how to handle something like that. So it was very good. We interact with our driving course. We have a driving course with KOWB 800s. We have driving instructors there, and they interact with those students in distracting the student. We put goggles on. They're actually driving those cars through a course, but yet they're putting what we call fatal vision goggles, and those blood alcohol content will run from 0.17 to 0.25.
Yeah.
So, and we have them also text and drive. So they get the full reality of buckling up, using the blinkers, using the horn, using the lights. They get the full reality of driving without being driving on the road. We do have that in the course. So that's how we interact.
All right, and again, this is coming to Laramie High School. The presentation, you did a little public presentation. Obviously, you got questions and a Q&A session after you kind of made the presentation. What's kind of the biggest question that parents have about this program? Is there one that comes to mind, or are there a variety that kind of pop up as you make these presentations?
No, I have had a couple, 3 of them, because some of our literature says, you know, they're going to drive with goggles or drive with
right.
You know, I've had parents actually call me and say, "Are you really going to get them drunk?" No, we do not really get them drunk. They're goggles. I like to make that completely clear that they're goggles.
I've seen that before. Highway Patrol here in the state has done that before. Right.
Yeah. So, and we've had that happen 2 or 3 different times. The other thing is we'll have students and parents. Are you really a judge? Yes, they're real judges, and that courtroom scene is pretty much right the way it's supposed to be.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's done. The sentencing is done properly. It's over, like I said, a real judge is there.
That's kind of an eye-opening experience for some young people.
And I believe Judge Cricken was the one that did lead on the program, but she is here from Laramie.
Yeah.
So, and she is one that was instrumental in bringing it over here.
Okay. So crossing your fingers, maybe we get Judge Cricken and sending a little message. I know Judge Cricken a little bit, not from being in the courtroom, from her. My daughter and her daughter were on a softball team together, so that's how I know her. Not from actually being in the good old courtroom. Yeah, I don't really try to get in front of judges too often. Let's just put it that way. So there's all kinds of different things. Again, it's kind of a story of bad decisions that could lead to a serious crash, the fallout after, including the mock trials you mentioned, a funeral, different things like this, the caught in the moment process. So it sounds like things are starting to come together. So we're in the planning stages right now. So
yes. What
will be the next steps that maybe Laramie needs to prepare for here?
We are looking for one more coordinator.
Okay.
And that local coordinator will need to go to a 3-day school in Rapid City. We pay for the motel room, we pay for all the food, we pay for all that. We do not pay for travel expenses. So they will go to that 3-day, and then they'll come back and they'll start meetings once a month. And in those meetings, they will invite the proper people that they need to start planning. At the very last meeting, and normally that's 10 days before the program,
okay,
we have what they call a final presentation. And that's when all those meetings come together. And it's a final presentation to everybody, and that's when everybody needs to be there. Because the day of, there's not enough time to stand around wondering what your position is.
Yeah, it sounds like you fill up the day full of activities, and you just keep it going for these kids so that they really understand everything that goes into this.
Yes.
Well, anything else before I let you go that people need to be aware of with CORE that's coming this Freshman Impact Program?
2 things. Dress weather appropriately, have your student dress weather appropriately, and don't worry about lunch because it is provided for them.
All right. Rick, thank you so much for coming in, talking a little bit of background of this, and sounds like the response is growing and growing, and we're spreading the word.
Thank you. We appreciate it.